Hey, listen up because I'm about to blow your mind with some simple math that your broke Uncle Steve refuses to understand. $500 a month. That's it. That's literally less than what most people spend on their car payment, yet somehow 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck according to a 2023 survey from payroll.org. Meanwhile, there's a stupidly simple strategy sitting right in front of your face that could turn that same $500 into over $500,000. Yeah, you heard that right. $500,000 from $500 a month. And before you click away thinking this is some crypto scam or MLM garbage, let me stop you right there. This is about the most boring, vanilla, grandpa-approved investment strategy on planet Earth, index funds. But here's the kicker. It actually works. Yo, what's good, everyone? Ryan here from Ryan Invest, and today we're diving deep into something that's going to make you either really excited or really depressed, depending on how old you are right now. Look, I'm not here to sell you some course or pretend I'm some Wall Street genius who discovered the secret sauce. I'm just a dude who figured out that most financial advice on the internet is either too complicated or straight up designed to keep you broke. So if you're tired of watching your coworker Brad flex his new Tesla while you're eating ramen for the third night in a row, hit that subscribe button and let's actually do something about your pathetic financial situation. And yes, smash that like button too, because the YouTube algorithm is hungrier than you are after paying rent. Now let me paint you a picture of the average American's financial life, and trust me, it's uglier than your dating app profile photos. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, the median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is just $134,000. That's it. After working for literally 40 years, most people have saved less than what a decent house costs in Ohio. Meanwhile, Fidelity says you need at least 10 times your annual salary saved by age 67 to maintain your lifestyle in retirement. So if you're making 50 grand a year, you need $500K minimum. But here's where it gets spicy. The average Social Security benefit is only $1,827 per month as of 2024. Try living on that in any major city and see how fast you end up eating cat food. The retirement crisis in America is so bad that the Government Accountability Office released a report showing that 48% of households headed by someone 55 or older have zero retirement savings. Zero. Nothing. Nada. These people are planning to work until they die or hoping Social Security somehow magically covers everything. Spoiler alert, it won't. Social Security was never designed to be your only source of retirement income. It was supposed to be one leg of a three-legged stool, with pensions and personal savings being the other two. But pensions are dead, and apparently so is personal savings. The thing is, most people treat investing like it's rocket science when it's actually more like following a recipe for instant noodles. You put money in, you wait, compound interest does its thing, and boom, you're not eating cat food at 70. But somehow, we've convinced ourselves that we need to be the next Warren Buffett or understand complex options strategies to make money in the market. Newsflash, you don't. In fact, trying to be clever is usually what screws people over. A study by Dalbar found that over the past 30 years, the average investor only earned 5.6% annually, while the S&P 500 returned 10.6%. Why? Because people are idiots who buy high, sell low, and panic every time Jim Cramer yells something on TV. The behavioral finance research on this is absolutely brutal. Studies from Vanguard show that the average investor underperforms their own investments by 1.5% annually just from badly timed moves. Think about that. The investments do fine, but the investor screws it up by trying to be smart. It's like buying a gym membership and then eating pizza every day. The gym works, you're just using it wrong. This is why the best investors are either dead or forgot they had accounts. They can't mess it up with their emotions and terrible timing. Let's talk about what $500 really means in your daily life. That's $16.67 per day. That's literally one DoorDash order with delivery fees. It's 2 overpriced coffees and a mediocre sandwich. It's 1/3 of what Karen spends on her monthly wine subscription. Yet somehow, when I tell people to invest $500 a month, they look at me like I just asked them to donate a kidney. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the average household spends $5,111 per month. 500 is less than 10% of that. If you can't find 10% to save for your future, then you deserve to be working at Walmart when you're 75. Let me break down where people's money actually goes because it's absolutely insane. The average American spends $3,526 per year on entertainment, according to the BLS. That's $294 per month on movies, concerts, streaming services, and other stuff to distract you from your empty bank account. The average household spends $2,375 annually on dining out. Cable TV still costs people an average of $116 per month, even though everything's online now. Don't even get me started on car payments. The average new car payment is $726 per month. You're telling me you can afford a $726 car payment but can't find $500 to invest? Make it make sense. Here's the beautiful simplicity of index funds that makes them perfect for people who can barely remember their Netflix password. An index fund is just a basket of stocks that represents the entire market or a big chunk of it. The S&P 500 index fund, for example, owns pieces of the 500 biggest companies in America. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. You own a tiny piece of all of them. No picking winners, no timing the market, no watching CNBC all day pretending you understand what they're talking about. You just buy the whole damn market and ride it up over time. The genius of index funds was figured out by Jack Bogle back in 1976 when he created the first index fund at Vanguard. Everyone thought he was an idiot. Why would you want average returns when you could pick winning stocks? Well, it turns out average beats 90% of professional fund managers over 15 years according to the SPIVA scorecard. These are people with MBAs from Harvard, teams of analysts in Bloomberg terminals that cost $24,000 per year, and they lose to a boring index fund that costs basically nothing to own. Now let's get into the actual math, because numbers don't lie, unlike your resume. The S&P 500 has returned an average of about 10% annually over the past 90 years. Yes, that includes the Great Depression, World War II, the dot-com crash, 2008 financial crisis, COVID, and every other disaster that made people think the world was ending. Through all that chaos, if you just stayed invested and didn't panic like a little, you averaged 10% per year. Some years you're up 30%, some years you're down 20%, but over time the trajectory is up and to the right like a hockey stick. Let's get granular with these returns. In 2022, the S&P 500 was down 18%. Everyone was freaking out, selling everything, convinced we were heading for another Great Depression. Then 2023 comes along and it's up 26%. If you panic sold in 2022, you locked in that 18% loss and missed the 26% recovery. This is exactly what most retail investors do. JP Morgan's research shows that if you miss just the 10 best days in the market over the past 20 years, your returns get cut in half. Half! And guess when those best days happen? Right after the worst days when everyone's running for the exits. So here's what happens when you invest $500 every single month into an S&P 500 index fund. Let's assume that historical 10% return continues, which honestly might be conservative given how much money the Fed keeps printing. After 10 years, you've invested $60,000 of your own money, but your account is worth $102,422. That extra 42 grand, that's compound interest working while you sleep, while you binge Netflix, while you're arguing with strangers on Twitter. You literally did nothing except not touch the money. The compound interest formula that makes this possible is the eighth wonder of the world, and I don't care if Einstein actually said that or not. The formula is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT, but you don't need to understand the math to benefit from it. What you need to understand is that your money makes money, and that money makes more money, and eventually, the money your money is making exceeds your actual contributions. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and faster until it's an unstoppable avalanche of wealth. After 20 years, things get really interesting. You've put in $120,000, but your account is now worth $379,684. You've more than tripled your money just by being patient and not being an idiot. But here's where the magic really happens. After 30 years, you've invested $180,000 and your account is worth $1,130,244. Yeah, you read that right. Over $1 million from $500 a month. That's the power of compound interest that Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world, though he probably never actually said that, but whatever, the point stands. Let me put this in perspective with different starting ages because I know you're doing the math on whether you're too old. If you start at 25 and invest until 65, that's 40 years of compounding. Your $500 per month turns into $2.8 million. $2.8 million. If you start at 30, you end up with $1.9 million. Start at 35, $1.1 million. Start at 40, $649,000. Even starting at 45 gives you $379,000 by 65. The lesson, start now, regardless of your age. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. But wait, I know what you're thinking. Ryan, 30 years is forever. I'll be old as... First of all, you're going to be old anyway. Might as well be old and rich instead of old and broke. And second, you don't need to wait 30 years to see serious results. Even after 15 years, you're sitting on $207,929. That's enough for a down payment on a house in most places that aren't California or New York. That's enough to take a year off work and travel. That's enough to tell your boss to kiss your ass and start that business you've been dreaming about. The real tragedy here is that most people don't start until they're in their 40s or 50s when they finally realize Social Security isn't going to cut it. According to Vanguard's How America Saves 2023 report, the average 401k balance for people in their 30s is only $35,537. These are supposedly the prime earning and investing years, and people have less saved than what a new pickup truck costs. Meanwhile, time is the most valuable asset in investing, and these dummies are just letting it slip away while they finance another iPhone they don't need. The behavioral psychology behind this procrastination is fascinating. Behavioral economists call it present bias. We overvalue immediate rewards and undervalue future benefits. Your brain literally can't comprehend exponential growth. It thinks linearly. So when I tell you $500 becomes $1 million, your brain thinks I'm lying because it can't process compound growth. This is why lottery winners go broke, and why people don't save for retirement. Our brains are wired for hunting and gathering, not for compound interest. Let me break down exactly how you can start this today, because I know some of you are sitting there thinking this sounds too good to be true or too complicated to actually do. First, you need a brokerage account. I'm talking about Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, the boring companies your dad probably uses. Not Robinhood, where you'll be tempted to YOLO everything on whatever meme stock is trending. These legitimate brokers all offer index funds with expense ratios lower than 0.1%, which means they're basically free to own. The account opening process takes about 15 minutes online. You'll need your social security number, driver's license, and bank account information. They'll ask about your employment and financial situation. Just be honest, it doesn't affect your ability to open an account. Once approved, which is usually instant, you link your checking account and you're ready to invest. Set up automatic monthly transfers of $500 in 1.05 speed and automatic investment into your chosen index fund. The entire process is easier than signing up for Netflix. The specific fund you want is something like VOO or SPY if you're buying ETFs, or VFIAX if you're buying mutual funds. They all track the S&P 500, they all do basically the same thing, and they're all boring as hell, which is exactly what you want. Boring makes money, exciting loses money. If your investment strategy sounds like it could be a Netflix documentary, you're doing it wrong. The expense ratios on these funds are insanely low. VOO charges 0.03% per year. That means on a $10,000 investment, you pay $3 per year in fees. $3. Meanwhile, the average actively managed mutual fund charges 0.75% or $75 on that same $10,000. Over 30 years, that difference in fees alone could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is why Jack Bogle is a hero and why Vanguard manages $8 trillion. They figured out that keeping costs low is more important than trying to beat the market. Now, I need to address the elephant in the room that every skeptic brings up. But Ryan, what about inflation? What about taxes? What about market crashes? Valid questions from invalid people who use these as excuses to do nothing. Yes, inflation is real. The Federal Reserve targets 2% inflation annually, though lately it's been running hotter than your ex's Instagram stories. But here's the thing, the stock market has historically crushed inflation over the long term. That 10% average return I mentioned, that's the nominal return. Even if you adjust for inflation averaging 3% per year, you're still looking at 7% real returns. Your money is still doubling every decade in terms of actual purchasing power. As for taxes, if you're smart, you're doing this in a Roth IRA where you pay taxes on the money going in, but never pay taxes on the gains. The IRS lets you contribute $7,000 per year as of 2024, which is $583 per month. Perfect for our strategy. After 30 years in a Roth, that $1 million is yours tax-free. Uncle Sam can't touch it. You could withdraw $40,000 per year in retirement and pay zero federal taxes. Meanwhile, your coworker who never invested is paying taxes on their Social Security benefits because they have to keep working part-time at Home Depot to afford groceries. The Roth IRA is literally the greatest deal in the tax code, and most people don't even know it exists. You put in after-tax money, it grows tax-free, and you withdraw it tax-free in retirement. If you put in $7,000 per year from age 25 to 65, and it grows at 10%, you end up with $3.7 million tax-free. That's like the government giving you $1 million gift for being smart enough to save. Yet only 33% of Americans have an IRA of any kind, according to the Investment Company Institute. If you make too much money for a Roth IRA, congratulations on your success, I guess. You can do a backdoor Roth conversion. You contribute to a traditional IRA, then immediately convert it to a Roth. It's completely legal and the IRS explicitly allows it. Rich people do this all the time while poor people don't even know it exists. Peter Thiel has a $5 billion Roth IRA. Billion with a B. All tax-free. This is why financial literacy matters. The rules favor those who understand them. Market crashes? Brother, market crashes are when you make the real money. When COVID hit and the market dropped 34% in March 2020, smart investors didn't panic sell. They bought more. The The market recovered to new all-time highs within months. Same thing happened in 2008, 2001, 1987, and every other crash that made people think capitalism was over. Warren Buffett has a saying, be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. When your neighbor is panic selling because CNN says the world is ending, that's when you double down on your monthly investment. Let me give you actual data on market crashes because fear-mongering media won't tell you. Since 1928, there have been 26 bear markets, drops of 20% or more. The average decline was 35% and lasted 289 days. But here's the important part. The average bull market gain was 112% and lasted 991 days. The ups are bigger and longer than the downs. Every single crash in history has been followed by a recovery to new highs. Every single one. If you bet against the American economy long term, you're betting against human innovation, progress, and capitalism. Good luck with that. Actually, let me tell you about dollar cost averaging, which is just a fancy term for investing the same amount every month, regardless of what the market is doing. When the market is high, your $500 buys fewer shares. When the market is low, it buys more shares. Over time, this averages out your cost basis and removes the impossible task of trying to time the market. You don't need to know if we're at the top or the bottom. You just invest every month like clockwork, like paying your Netflix subscription, except this one actually makes you money. The data on dollar cost averaging is compelling. Vanguard studied this extensively and found that lump sum investing beats dollar cost averaging about 68% of the time. But here's the thing, you don't have a lump sum. You have a paycheck that comes every month. So dollar cost averaging isn't even a choice for most people. It's just reality. And that's actually good because it forces discipline and removes emotion from the equation. The psychology behind why people don't do this is fascinating and depressing at the same time. We live in an instant gratification society where everyone wants to get rich quick, but nobody wants to get rich slowly and surely. People will spend hours researching the best TV to buy, but won't spend 30 minutes setting up an investment account that could literally change their entire financial future. The median American watches 3 hours of TV per day, according to Nielsen, yet they claim they don't have time to learn about investing. Make it sense. Social media makes this worse. You see crypto bros posting Lamborghini pics claiming they turned $1,000 into $1 million in 6 months. You see day traders showing massive gains, but never their losses. You see influencers living lavish lifestyles funded by debt and brand deals. Nobody posts about their index fund returning 10% per year because that's boring. But boring is exactly what builds wealth. Exciting is what destroys it. Here's another mind-blowing statistic. According to a 2023 Bankrate survey, 32% of Americans don't invest in the stock market at all. Zero. Nothing. These people are essentially guaranteeing they'll be poor forever because they're scared of volatility. Meanwhile, inflation is eating away at their savings account that's earning 0.5% interest if they're lucky. The bank is lending their money. The inflation destruction of cash is something people don't understand. At 3% inflation, your money loses half its purchasing power every 24 years. That $10,000 in your savings account, in 24 years, it'll buy what $5,000 buys today. You're literally getting poor every day by holding cash. Meanwhile, the stock market has averaged 10% returns, meaning your money doubles every 7 years. After 24 years, that $10,000 becomes $80,000. One person has $5,000 in purchasing power. The other has $80,000. That's the difference between investing and not investing. Let me paint you two different scenarios to really drive this home. Scenario 1. Meet Basic Bob. Bob is 25 years old, makes $50,000 a year, and decides investing is too risky. He saves $500 per month in a high-yield savings account earning 4% interest. After 30 years, Bob has $332,193. Not terrible, but not great either. And that's assuming interest rates stay at 4%, which they won't. The Fed will probably cut rates back to near zero the next time the economy sneezes. Now adjust Bob's $332,193 for inflation at 3% per year. In today's dollars, that's only worth about $137,000. Bob saved for 30 years and ended up with enough to maybe buy a decent RV to live in during retirement. Meanwhile, his rent went from $1,000 to $2,427 due to that same inflation. His savings didn't even keep up with his basic living expenses increasing. Scenario 2. Meet Index Fund Isabella. Same age, same income, but she puts that $500 into an S&P 500 index fund, earning 10% annually.
After 30 years, Isabella has $1,130,244. That's $800,000 more than Bob. $800,000 difference from the exact same monthly contribution. The only difference? Isabella understood that volatility is the price you pay for returns, while Bob was too scared to see his account balance fluctuate. But here's what really separates the winners from the losers in this game: consistency and discipline. The stock market will test you. There will be months where your account drops by 10% or more. The media will be screaming about recession, depression, and economic collapse. Your brother-in-law who works at a bank will tell you to sell everything. This is when 90% of people fail. They panic, they sell, they lock in their losses, and swear off investing forever. Then the market recovers without them, and they spend the rest of their lives bitter about how the system is rigged. The data on investor behavior is absolutely damning. Dalbar's quantitative analysis of investor behavior shows that the average equity fund investor underperformed the S&P 500 by 4.7% annually over the past 20 years. The market returned 9.5%, but the average investor only got 4.8%. Why? Because they buy high when everyone's euphoric and sell low when everyone's panicking. They chase last year's winners, they try to time the market, they let emotions drive decisions. It's financial suicide. The data on this is crystal clear. According to research by Fidelity, the best performing accounts are either dead people or people who forgot they had an account. I'm not even joking. The people who do the best in the market are literally the ones who do nothing. They don't trade, they don't time, they don't tinker. They just leave it alone and let compound interest work its magic. Meanwhile, the average investor underperforms the market by 5% annually because they can't stop touching their portfolio like a teenager with acne. Now, let's address the excuse I hear most often. I don't have $500 per month to invest. Really? Let's look at what the average American spends money on according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The average household spends $333 per month eating out. That's 2/3 of our investment right there. Cable TV, $100 for 500 channels of garbage you don't watch. Gym membership you never use, $50. Subscriptions to streaming services, apps, and random crap you forgot about, another $50 easy. That new car payment instead of buying used probably costs